Okay, so how to lose your job as president of a country. No, not of the United States, but of South Korea. So, very akin to one Michael Scott in one famous episode of The Office, where he screamed out, I declare bankruptcy. The president of South Korea, in a big brain move that's going to shock all of you because things weren't going his way. He was in a little bit of a rock and a hard place. He wasn't real popular. Kids at school made fun of him. Everybody's making fun of him. Come on, guys, be nice. He decided to do this. I declare martial law. And he did. He did indeed. And P. Wayne Smith, you know what? For everybody on all the video platforms for Hard Lens Media, P. Wayne Smith, do declare bankruptcy. I do declare martial law. So from here on out, right now in the chat as we're covering this segment, martial law has been declared. All right. And I want everybody to behave themselves. And Jenny Lynn, already, you broke the martial law. Yoon the Looney Tune. Go ahead and see the political police right away. Go. Get up. Go. Jenny Lynn, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Yoon the Looney Tune. Okay? Everybody. If you think that I'm just going to allow this to go on, I mean, you guys are in trouble here. So let's go ahead and just rewind back the clocks from yesterday, okay? When things looked a little bit unstable, and it kind of impacts me a little bit because, see, South Korea borders North Korea, and there's been a little bit of some trouble here and there with their neighbor to the north, who would occasionally launch some missiles, perhaps over the Korean Peninsula or across into the Pacific Ocean, flying over countries like Japan. And I have family members and friends who live in Japan. So, any kind of instability in that region affects me personally. So let's go ahead and rewind the clocks when things seem to be a little bit unknown.
Let's just bring you some more on that breaking news. You can see I'm joined by Professor Michael Clark, our security and defense analyst, to talk about what's going on in South Korea. The announcement in the last few minutes that the President Yoon, has declared martial law. What's your sense of this, Michael? Why has this decision come now?
Well, it's a surprise, for sure. I mean, President Yoon Suk-yeol, President Yoon, he's been president for...
Yoon the Looney Tune. You know what, Jenny Lynn? I am going to put that in the lore for Hard Lens Media now. Yoon the Looney Tune. I declare martial law.
Only 2 years, 2022. But he's been, in a sense, a minority president because the opposition has the majority in the parliament, and he hasn't been able to get anything through the parliament. So South Korea has been in a state of political stasis and some degree of internal political crisis. Add to that the fact that North Korea has been very assertive in its war with Ukraine, sending troops to the Kursk region, to Russia, and other forms of rhetoric from North Korea. And the belief is in the government in Seoul that the opposition are penetrated by the North Koreans, that they lean too far.
Any evidence of that?
I think there's some evidence of it, but I wouldn't claim to be a specialist on internal politics of South Korea. But it's clear that this is a sort of constitutional maneuver. There will be some pushback from the opposition for sure, but this is not the beginning of a coup or anything like that. It reflects a governmental crisis in South Korea. And the most strategic issue for me is what this does to South Korea-Japanese relations. Because South Korea and Japan, for years, they wouldn't even talk to each other because of the legacy of the Second World War. But they've now begun not just to talk, but to cooperate on security matters. And that really changes the balance of strategic forces in East Asia, because they're both worried about China. And a governmental crisis in South Korea will affect what the Japanese think. And that Japan has got a problem as well with its own governmental stability and the seriousness with which the Japanese government is taken in the rest of the world at the moment. So there may be some ripple effects from this, But the ripple effects are not from a constitutional coup, it's from a governmental crisis. But it will run for a bit because the declaration of martial law, giving the president extra legal powers, that's never a step you can take without consequences.
No, it's not clear what he's going to do with those measures yet. And then on the opposition as well, Michael, opposition leader Lee has said that they will try to nullify this martial law. But there's concern that they may try to arrest members of parliament. I mean, there's plenty more to talk about.
Be very careful how you use martial law. Very careful.
Yeah, no doubt, because martial law is a very serious thing. So I just want to pull up some stuff here too. So in regards towards Korea, I mean, there is the idea of, number one, they've the last time this happened was in 1980. So that's like 44 years. And there's a lot of people that still remember it because people did die. People got hurt. Lives were turned upside down because the previous leader was assassinated, and it caused instability. And because of this, many people got flashbacks. A lot of the older generations, most likely 100%, got flashbacks to those violent and turbulent times. But when you are the sitting president and you are incapable of handling criticism or the fact that you are waning in popularity, and then all of a sudden you're saying that your opposition party is a threat to the nation, okay, you took a calculated risk there, buddy. But my goodness, hey, buddy, you're bad at mathematics, aren't you? Because that wasn't going to fly well, especially in this day and age where everything is connected. The economies are all connected. And one wrong move, it could be a complete effing disaster. And because of this, here's what happened. South Korea's opposition parties moved to impeach the president over sudden declaration of martial law. So you had the opposition leader, and isn't it interesting we live in a day and age where he was live streaming himself going to the National Assembly, getting into Parliament, and all of them voting unanimously against the president of South Korea's martial law. 0 people supporting it, obviously, and righteously so. But they're moving to impeach him now. So as it stands right now, this is happening today. In Seoul, South Korea. South Korea's opposition parties moved Wednesday to impeach the president over the shocking and short-lived declaration of martial law that drew heavily armed troops to encircle parliament before lawmakers climbed walls to re-enter the building and unanimously voted to lift his order. Which, okay, hey, very serious because, South Korea does have a conscription, so like every person has to be conscripted into the military, and this was one huge powder keg moment. Thankfully, nobody was seriously hurt or injured, and the lawmakers were able to remove and undo the damage that the president of South Korea did. So impeaching the president of South Korea would require support of 2/3 of parliament. I'm willing to bet that everybody voted for it, and at least 6 justices of the 9-member Constitutional Court would have to endorse it to remove him. The motion to impeach, submitted jointly by the main liberal opposition Democrat Party and 5 smaller opposition parties, could be put to a vote as early as Friday. Say it with me, folks. I think the president of South Korea is cooked. He's cooked. He's cooked. When you have stuff like this happening and people storming the streets, yeah, he made a dumb move. He didn't add the 1 to the 2. There you go. Yoon's senior policy advisors and defense minister offered to resign as the nation struggled to make sense of what appeared to be a poorly conceived stunt. The Democrat Party, not our Democrat Party, the Democrat Party in South Korea, submitted a separate motion to impeach Kim, who allegedly recommended the martial law declaration to Yoon. So there you go. In his speech announcing the abrupt order Tuesday night, the president of South Korea, Yoon, vowed to eliminate anti-state forces and continue to criticize the Democrat Party's attempts to impeach key government officials and senior prosecutors. But martial law lasted only about 6 hours. Shortest-lived coup in global history, maybe? I don't know. Maybe it's one for the record books. Ending after the National Assembly voted to overrule Yoon and its cabinet formally lifted it before daybreak Wednesday. Thank goodness. Democrat Party lawmakers who hold a majority in the 300-seat parliament called on Yoon to quit immediately, or they would take steps to impeach him. Yoon's martial law declaration was a clear violation of the Constitution. It didn't abide by any requirements to declare it. A party statement said the order was originally invalid and a grave violation of the Constitution. It was a grave act of rebellion and provides perfect grounds for his impeachment. Impeachment. So what happens if Yoon is impeached? Well, hopefully nothing like this happens again. And to the people of South Korea, please be safe. We're glad that this crisis has passed. My goodness, hey. And we think our elections are something. little bit of a off note here, but I'm pretty sure all of you in your own way have seen videos on different platforms of people in different countries, parliaments, fighting it out. It's action-packed there 24/7, I guess. Impeaching him would require support of the 200 National Assembly members. The Democrat Party and other small opposition parties together have 192 seats, but they could seek additional votes from Yoon's ruling conservative People Power Party. Wow. The 190 vote that rejected martial law included the votes of 18 lawmakers from the PPP, People Power Party. Sounds like a good name. According to National Assembly officials, party leader Hang Dong-hun and Seoul Mayor Oh Se-hoon, also a member, criticized Yoon's martial law declaration. Of course, probably all the people in his political party were like, dude, what are you doing? Hey, genius, you're making a calculated move, but clearly you don't know anything about mathematics, do you? If Yoon is impeached, he'll be stripped of his constitutional powers until the Constitutional Court rules. Prime Minister Hak Dong-so, who holds the number 2 position in the South Korean government, would take over presidential responsibilities. Han issued a public message pleading for patience and calling for cabinet members to fulfill your duties even after this moment. Oh boy, it must really suck if you're a part of his administration. You got to go to work. It's like, oh, that stupid president. I gotta put my pants on. I can't listen to my favorite show, Hard Lens Media. Shout out to any South Korean viewers that we got out there. Can't listen to my favorite show, and Kit's gonna be talking about us. Oh, so embarrassed. So embarrassed right now. Also, yeah, real quick, I just noticed this too. See, I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat. Grapentine. Sabby said the movie Parasite is a good class-based movie made in South Korea. Absolutely. That is a good movie. Maybe we might watch it for a movie night if all of you behave yourselves. So there you go. A little bit off topic here. There you go. And that's right, Prim 54, you are correct. It was a 6-hour coup. A 6-hour coup. Coup. A 6-hour coup. My goodness. I declare martial law. Yoon the Looney Tune. Jen Lin. That's Jen Lin. I'm going to give you full credit for that one. That was funny. That was very funny. Continuing on, the Constitutional Court has only 6 incumbent justices following 3 retirements. That means all 6 must approve the impeachment motion for it to succeed. The court includes justices appointed after Yoon took office, so the Democrat Party is expected to speed up the process of exercising its right to recommend 2 of the 3 new justices. Yoon's martial law declaration, the first of its kind in more than 40 years. Okay, there you go. Harken back to South Korea's past military-backed governments, which is something a lot of people may not be aware of. It wasn't always a fancy, shiny old republic. It had its own fair share of troubles, too. When authorities occasionally proclaimed martial law and other decrees that allowed them to station soldiers, tanks, and armored vehicles on the streets or at public places, such as schools, or to prevent anti-government demonstrations. Until Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, such scenes of military intervention had not been as seen since South Korea achieved democracy in the late 1980s. Yeah, not really good. Not really good. Come on. Dramatic hours at the parliament. After Yoon's declaration, troops carrying full battle gear, my goodness, included assault rifles, tried to keep protesters away. There's a couple of videos out there. Again, got to be careful because if it's videos from overseas, from other news agencies, could get our channel hit. Got to be careful on that. Just got to be careful on that. But there's a video out there where you have one woman, a brave woman, a protester, and hey, protesters in the USA, protest South Korea, making guys look like children. But this one lady was grabbing one of the soldiers' rifles. Was something you don't do? But she gave 0 Fs and was pushing back at that soldier. I was like, wow, lady, you're braver than me. I'll tip my hat off to that, but don't do that, folks, because it could end in a complete effing disaster. So continuing on, tried to keep protesters away from the National Assembly as military helicopters flew overhead and landed nearby. One soldier pointed his assault rifle at a woman who was among protesters outside the building, demanding that the martial law be lifted. It wasn't clear how 190 lawmakers were able to enter a parliament hall to vote down Yoon's martial law decree. Chances are there was one soldier or maybe a captain who was like, all right, guys, listen, get in. Get in. This is stupid. Get in. Get in here. I didn't let you in, but get in. Get in right now. That's probably what happened. Or of course, you had others who did climb over the walls, but give or take. A good portion of them got in there. The opposition leader and National Assembly speaker were seen climbing over the walls because, hey, you know what? Sometimes walls got to get climbed over. As troops and police officers blocked some from entering, they didn't aggressively restrain or use force against others, of course, because they're all probably confused, like, hey, what's going on? No major violence was reported, thank goodness. The troop and police personnel were later seen leaving the grounds of the National Assembly after the parliamentary vote to lift the martial law. We said, even with our unfortunate memories of military coups, our citizens have surely observed the events today and saw the maturity of our military. And thank goodness, because everything could have gone down so horrifyingly wrong. Under South Korea's constitution, a president can declare martial law during wartime, warlike situations, or other comparable national emergency states that require the use of military force to restrict the freedom of the press, assembly, and other rights to maintain order. Many observers question whether South Korea is currently in such a state. The Constitution also states that the president must oblige when the National Assembly demands the lifting of martial law with majority vote. So very good indeed. The president official said Yoon decided to impose martial law to resolve a political deadlock. That's not how you solve deadlocks, by declaring martial law, and did in the middle of the night to minimize its effect on the economy. Genius move, right? The official spoke on the condition of anonymity because of the sensitive nature of the issue. Yeah, because you don't want to get popped or disappear. Experts, no, yeah, clearly Yoon violated a lot, all right? But saying he violated the Constitution, while martial law allows special measures to restrict individual freedoms and the authority of agencies and courts, the Constitution does not permit the functions of Parliament to be restricted. But in following Yoon's declaration on Tuesday, South Korean military proclaimed the parliamentary activities were suspended and deployed troops to try and block lawmakers from entering the National Assembly. The Democrat Party's floor leader called for Yoon to be immediately investigated on charges of rebellion over the way he deployed troops to the parliament. While the president mostly enjoys immunity from prosecution while in office, the protection does not extend to allegations of rebellion or treason. In Seoul, South Korea, the streets were busy Wednesday, like a normal Wednesday or a normal weekday. Good, and I'm glad. To the people of South Korea, please be safe. So there you go. But that's what's been going on. Very interesting timeline that we are in. And it does call into question what happens to one of our strongest allies in that region. There's Japan, there's South Korea. And the fact that you had a sitting president implement this says a lot. But there's one thing that's not being addressed. One thing in particular that once again haunts me, that scares me just a tiny, tiny little bit. Because we have to remember, folks, we have to remember that in South Korea, the president did meet with a couple of people, most notably an individual whose curse continues to live on and on and on. So I want to just share this with all of you because I just want to make sure I get the video or the photo done correctly. Because if I can find it, maybe I can. There it is. Found it. Hotspot leading the way. The curse lives on. The curse always lives on. The Zelensky curse strikes again. Folks, put on your tinfoil hats. I think there's a bigger picture and bigger play happening here. The curse. Somebody wrote here, his short man complex is too powerful, overwhelming all who are exposed to its radioactive influence. The curse lives on. It shall live on. We'll be following through with this story and seeing what more is going on with it. So everybody stay tuned. Keep your heads on a swivel, drink water, and be safe out there. And to the people of Korea, South Korea, glad this crisis has passed. And I hope that things continue to calm down.